We are racing in Singapore. 100 kilometers of top swim bike run here for the PTO Asian Open. It's a top class field, all competing for a share of $600,000 as well as lucrative PTO points.
As we see now, Josh first up, doesn't seem to be in too much of a hurry. It looks like he wants someone else to get in front and take the lead. We just saw him wave Daniel Bakkegaard through, so you don't often see that in the race.
We saw Jason West on the feet of Kristian Blummenfelt, so that's a good position for him to be in. That was about 8th and 9th feet. In 4th place there we saw it was actually Sam Appleton. Sam Laidlow came out in 5th. So Sam Appleton having a much better swim than he did at the US Open.
Those top guys might have a bit of a shock seeing how many people are in the front group here.
Yeah, this is an interesting dynamic. This is the biggest lead group that we've seen out of the water on the PTO Tour. And I think it's all because of the conditions, the heat and humidity.
There you saw Aaron actually turning around. You'd see him looking back, and yeah, he's probably quite surprised that there's nearly the whole field in that front group.
It's interesting to see names like David McNamee in this front group. David, of course, known for 2 podium finishes at the Ironman World Championships. He's good in the heat and humidity. This is the first time I think he's made the front swim group on the PTO Tour, so he's in a really great position as we see the men go through transition now. Kristian's right in the thick of it, as is Sam Laidlow.
A more conservative approach to the swim from Laidlow, Jack, do you think?
I think a combination of maybe not feeling his best. He's one of those men who, when he's feeling great, he races aggressively no matter the conditions, no matter the course. So I think maybe that's the biggest factor, and he's decided just to sit in and race a bit conservatively, sort of like what we saw Aaron Royal do in the first lap before he obviously felt a little bit better and like the pace was a little bit slower. One man who spent all of his time focusing on just this race is the man who we've just seen come up into 2nd position. He made the pass on Kristian Blummenfelt literally less than a minute ago, who is about in 8th wheel, and he's rode through about 5-6 athletes. He hasn't ducked in once. That's Mika Newt, and he's just about to come to the front of the race. Mika Newt's strength is the bike. Now, he's a very well-rounded triathlete. He came 4th at the Ironman 70.3 World Championships, but his strength really is the bike. I said he prepared specifically for this race. He spent the last month and a half in Thailand in the heat. He's dedicated his life to winning this race. He left home, he went there by himself. He's the only man in the group who dedicated everything to this day.
As we see
pictures here of Sam Laidlow in transition. Came into this ill health. You actually bumped into him a couple of days ago, Crowe, and you said firsthand, looked awful, sounded worse.
Yeah, I saw him yesterday morning. He had fevers and a temperature. I guess it was a brave or potentially a stupid decision to start the race today, but he talked about in the grid walkthrough with Jack earlier his desire to maintain his world ranking to get starts on the PTO Tour, and I think this is a smart decision for Sam. He's got some racing to come later in the year, and when you're sick, you're just not going to perform up to your normal level, particularly in a field of this caliber.
Looks like he's hobbling there as well, perhaps picked up an injury, but certainly hope that whatever it is, he works it out. As Crowe was saying, a season still has something for him, and we're excited to see him back on a PTO start line in 2024, no doubt.
As we see...
Is that Gustav?
Gustav.
Oh, it is. Oh.
The race is sort of going from bad to worse for Gustav.
That's around the far U-turn too. He would have done 1 million of those in his life, so that it would be interesting to get some camera on that. It's really unfortunate.
He's having a terrible year, and it's, of all the athletes in this course, he's technically so good. You wouldn't expect to see that. 2023
has just been such a tough year for him, and you sort of hate to see this. It's actually quite heartbreaking.
So what are we looking at here, Jack? Some issues here for Aaron?
It just looked like a little bit of a stuck chain potentially. Maybe the chain sort of dropping out of his rear derailleur, and they sort of had to link it back into so that the chain would run through that rear derailleur, and it looked like it had been getting sort of a little bit stuck, Crowe. Is that what you saw?
Yeah, it could have been just a stiff link that you get. Maybe it wasn't running through. It was bothering him enough to stop.
That's Tom Bishop there that we just saw on the side of the road. The PTO US Open, he had a mechanical at almost the same point of the race, and he's had it again here. And this here that we're seeing is Mike Phillips. So that's 3 mechanicals we've seen in the last sort of 5K of the race after it was really smooth. we sort of expected there to be big time carnage in this race because of the conditions, and you wonder if some of this is caused by the conditions, the really hot roads. But to have three mechanicals like that, Tom Bishop walking up on the hill, Aaron Royal having the mechanical, Mike Phillips, one of the strongest cyclists in World Triathlon, stuck on the side of the road. We also had Gustav Iden with that crash. This race is really becoming quite a chaotic, anything can happen at any moment race, Crowe.
And here we are in transition.
Yeah, as we see Peter make the change from bike to run here. We're going to learn a lot the first few kilometres of this run. Not only how Peter looks and what kind of pace he's holding, but he has extended the lead. It's out to I think 2 minutes 40 back to Kristian and Mika, and Daniel Bakkegaard's making a late charge in this run, similar to what we saw Imogen Simmons do in the women's race yesterday. And he looks a little ginger, Peter. Sometimes it can take you a little bit of time to get more fluid, not fluent.
Okay, here we go through transition, and Kristian Blummenfelt has dismounted and he's run his way into park his bike. And I'll hand it over to you experts to try and analyse what he does through here and how he looks.
Well, he hasn't cramped, so he's already one step ahead of where he was in Milwaukee. And yeah, I think again it's just very experienced here, Kristian. We just see him get through transition really well. He'll have a great. He's always one of the fastest in transitions, and he's now out on the run. As we see Daniel Bakkegaard come in and rack his bike. Mika Newt's out in third spot. Great race so far for him. Daniel has really closed the ride. He's closed the ride out really well, and I think he's got Aaron Royal with him there. So we can see Peter on the left of our screen. Peter Hemrick still looking really good, turning the legs over, but we are just in the embryonic stages of this run course. There's a lot of this race still to unfold. As who was that who made their way out there behind Daniel? I didn't see who that was. Or maybe that was Casper, who was racking and getting out. So yeah, he's right in the thick of this race too. Daniel taking a little extra time in transition here. Casper got through very quickly, so he's through and out onto the course. Every second that you're standing still is awful in transition. You don't want to. Oh, Daniel, a little bit of confusion. He doesn't know. Oh no, someone's told him to go back, and
he's got to get everything in the bucket, or he would suffer a penalty.
We are going to watch that battle and watch that gap. Kristian Blummenfelt is losing about 10 seconds to Jason West over the whole course right now, but how will that develop? They both are the two best runners in this field. Expect them to come closer together. He's definitely moving his way through the field, as we see him past Casper there, so Jason West now up to 5th. So Mika Newt here, extremely disappointing start to the run for him. Stomach issues. We just saw him duck into a porta potty as well off screen, so clearly dealing with some GI issues in the stomach. Maybe some fueling issues with the late race and the hot conditions out here, but also underdone on the run, maybe overbiked a little bit.
You can feel his presence as well now, fellas, as well. It gets claustrophobic out there with the humidity, and then when you've got the top guy, the big gun, coming past, yeah, there it is. We have a new leader here in the PTO Tour Asia Singapore as we focus in on Sam Long.
Well, he's engaged here in a battle with Daniel Bakkegaard. That gap still to me looks to be about 100 metres. Keep in mind it was about 150 metres 2.5k ago, so it's not a foregone conclusion that Sam Long overtakes Daniel Bakkegaard here for 4th and 5th. And he's digging in here, so he's celebrating, but every time he gives a high five, he gets back to business and he pushes a little bit more. To me, that says that he wants to have the fastest run split, and he wants to have as big a gap as possible to 2nd place to show just how good he is and just how far in front of everyone else he is today.
Well, he sees the blue now, and he's coming down towards the finish line. His resume is quite something, and it's about to get even deeper. Kristian Blummenfelt. A quite remarkable race, an incredible schedule over the summer of 2023. This man is rewriting the triathlon playbook. He can quite literally do it all. And he's closing in on that tape.
What an athlete.
Kristian Blummenfelt is the PTO Tour Asian Champion 2023. He's done it. He's pocketed himself a PTO Tour race, and he's done it in quite some fashion.
Finally, Kristian, you've got one. How good, and you heard him sort of scream over the finish line. Trust me, that's what he's thinking. I finally got one of these things. Everyone kept saying I couldn't win a PTO race, but here I am, I've won it. Finally.
And what a race for Peter Hemmerich. He sprints his way across the finish line. He comes home second at the PTO Asian Tour. What a remarkable performance as he jumps into the ice bath.
Career day for Peter Hemmerich. Like, if you had Peter Hemmerich as second on your podium today, you are a triathlon genius. No one was picking that. What a day.
And there is Jason West crossing the line. He makes up our podium here in Singapore. The Flying Frenchman bringing this one home. A quite fantastic performance from the number 22 ranked in the world. He brings it home at the PTO Tour here in Singapore with a beautiful run. Works hard for that one, Jack.
He looks like he's given it everything, John. I mean, that's what happens when you have to work your way through these elite fields. To run yourself up into fourth like that, you actually have to give it everything and absolutely destroy yourself. So collapsing at the finish line, no surprise. And Sam Long, who we just hear scream out of
exhaustion.
Yeah, it is. It's out of, I just gave that everything I had.
Yeah.
Like, I went to the depths of my emotional capabilities there, and it's sort of animalistic. It's sort of like a gladiator back in the day. You go into a place that you don't go to at any other aspect in your life apart from sport.
So our inaugural trip here to Singapore, and we've had a great weekend, haven't we? The men's finishes up like this. So with the performance for the ages, Kristian Blummenfelt comes in first, twice a top 10 finisher in PTO races. Peter Hemmerich steps onto the podium into second. He goes home to Quinn and Oliver with a nice silver medal to show them, his sons. Jason West picked up third today. The silent assassin adds that to his silver that he got in Milwaukee. Dennis Chevreau, he has proved his pedigree with full distance, adds a quality result here in Singapore to take fourth. And then we go down to Sam Long, who's had a crazy month, welcoming baby Leo to the fold. He picks up fifth, and another man in that race at the end there was Daniel Beckergaard, so consistent on PTO races, comes in sixth. Kasper Stepniak was a wild card for this one. He's in seventh. Aaron Royal was hurting at the end there in eighth. Sam Appleton in ninth, and David McNamee was in 10th. It has been quite something out here in Singapore. We hope you enjoyed the racing. It was fast and furious. There was thrill, there was agony, and we're going to do it all again in 2024.